You've got it right here. S4 with E squared in conjunction with Spaced Out Radio.
Alien contact. S4. UFOs. Bigfoot. 9/11. Grays. The Illuminati. Cover-ups. RH negative blood. What are they hiding from
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Now, the men behind the mics, Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and the SOR Spacewire's Eric Markham. You can find more at spacedoutradio.com.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Now, let's travel into the universe. It's S4 with E squared.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to S4 of E Squared. Myself, Eric Cooper with Forest Moon Paranormal, and Eric Markham with Spaced Out Radio's Newswire. And the views and opinions expressed in S4 do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio. Wait. You haven't heard of Spaced Out Radio? Oh, my God. www.spacedoutradio.com every night, Monday through Friday with Dave Scott. 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to midnight. Talks about everything under the sun. If you haven't heard it, you're missing out. We fall under the Spaced Out Radio umbrella. How you doing tonight, Markham?
Doing fine. How about you, Mr. Cooper?
Oh, I just got done with week 2 of my terrorism class. So doing good. 2 more weeks to go.
I just started my my shortwave radio courses, and I got of course, they're coming out of sequence. No, level 1 hasn't gotten here yet, but level 3 has. I opened it, looked at it, and said, I'm going to skip ahead on this.
You get some EVPs on it yet?
There's stuff I haven't seen in there since high school. Do what?
You get some EVPs out there yet?
Actually, I recorded some stuff tonight. We were on a conference call with Dave Scott, and he stepped away from the microphone to do whatever. I think he little SOR or something. And while he was gone, as soon as he left the room, I started getting the strangest, I don't know, it almost sounds like words. And I'm kind of writing an article, trying to write some content about audio pareidolia, where you look at a pattern, your brain, if you see an image that's not really there, your brain makes it happen. There's an oral version of that where the brain takes sound input. And I'm going to go through, I'm putting this file, make a long story short, I'm going to take this file through probably Adobe Audition 3 or Sony, whatever, Acid 8, whichever one I can edit the most. And I'm just going to see if by slowing it down, speed, like the EVP people do, where they tinker with it, to where you hear something. I think all it is once he walks away, whatever you just get when it's dead mic, he makes its own feedback. But I'm just going to do an experiment to see if it sounds like an EVP.
There you go. So yeah, we're going to be using your scientific expertise tonight for damn sure. Tonight, if you didn't catch it, we're talking. I've been watching David Paulides' videos all day and just writing down some of the different scenarios that he goes through with. Man, the man charges $72 a book. I can't afford no damn $72 a book. I can't imagine what he's going to charge for his movie. But it's good stuff. But
yeah, really.
You know, here's what I want. Once I get my Forest Moon office / studio in place, then I can actually take maps and draw. Because what I want to do, I want to get a map. And I'm just going to do the United States, Canada. But for our Aussies out there, there's like 15 different cases of mysteriously disappeared people in Australia alone, and that's just the ones I heard him talking about. And we'll look globally later, but for now, I just want to do the United States. If you look at the West Coast, because I saw the clusters he's talking about. If you look at the West Coast, oh my God, it's dotted. So folks, there's thousands of people that come missing every year in our national forests and national parks. Now, I've got a buddy I went to college with back in the, I guess, late 80s before I joined the Army. And he's a state park ranger. I've got him looking into this as of today. And he's going to see what he can find. Because David Paulides has been doing this for, I think he's going on 10 years. I know at least 6. He just came out with another book. And, I mean, he's got good research. I'll say that. I don't care for the man personally, but he does have, he's a good researcher in what he does. Plus, he's got, 20 years law enforcement background, so he's pretty valid and pretty extensive in how he researches. So I'll give him that, but $72 a book, that's too much. And not to mention Paracon. That pissed me off right there. He didn't want to come to Paracon because we don't have enough people. So, I whatever. But we've got people missing right here in my backyard, which is kind of what got me looking into this, 4 or 5 years ago. Or more like 3 or 4 years ago, I guess it is now. Last night sore. No, I didn't, because yesterday was my birthday, and I was actually doing the birthday thing, and then getting caught up. I had to do a PowerPoint presentation on state-run terrorism, and I got a 95% on my midterm, so we're good there. So, Markham and I were talking about granite. Because granite, it seems, there were like 5 different cases of missing people that were all focused around granite mountains. What did you come up with, Markham?
Well, granite is sorry for the throat clear there. Granite is a composite. It's an igneous rock, though it's formed under heat and pressure. But it has quartz, feldspar. In some cases, like out west in Arizona, it has a high mica content, which makes it very difficult to climb because it's real crumbly out there. But we have, up in Maine, it's mostly quartz, feldspar. It's harder rocks. And I'm thinking the quartz. It's funny that it's actually, I think it's got some limestone in it too. But the quartz content may be, people attribute certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Certain spiritual
If
powers,
it's got,
or
if
quartz
it's
has a
got
special
crystal,
power. So if you think of the parts per million in a chunk, it's got a lot of quartz in it. So granite could have whatever attributes quartz has. You can probably transfer that over to your granite.
Well, I wonder.
Because there's so much of one in the other.
I'm wondering if granite is a multiplier.
It could be.
Because
in the same way that quartz is.
And I understand the falling off the cliff thing, but we're talking these people that are missing. We're talking experienced mountain climbers and experienced runners, and we'll get to some of these points here in a little bit, but he brought up the point, and I'm not even done with my research. We're probably going to pick this conversation up in another show as well when I get a little more research done. Because here's what I want to do. I want to take this extensive, because this is kind of a hot spot for me, just because, one, I used to be search and rescue. I live in the mountains, so it's pretty personal. And I mean, missing people. We're talking a lot of families that, they want answers. And the National Forest, or the National Park Service, does not track, or they say they don't track missing people, which is bullshit. And David Paulides has been doing the Freedom of Information Act.
Well, they have to.
They do. They're law enforcement. They are, park rangers are a law enforcement agency.
Yeah.
So they're lying. They're covering something up.
They wear guns and have badges and everything.
they're covering it up. And why would they cover it up? If you want to look at it from a monetary point of view, if they came out and told people there are thousands of people, your national parks aren't really safe because people come up missing, and that's 3.5 million visitors a year.
Mm-hmm.
So is it all about money? Maybe. Is it because the government's behind it? Possibly. Is it? And again, we'll get to that, because we got some. Let's go over some of the common denominators here. I've also got a list of locations for some of the hot spots. So what we know is thousands of missing people a year globally, right in front of loved ones. We're talking, okay. So when I'm saying this, they've already ruled out pedophiles. They've already ruled out serial killers. And like I said, that's what I like about Paulides, is he has law enforcement background and very extensive with his research, or he's an investigative reporter essentially. It could be alien, Corey. We'll get to that. I think it's I don't know what to think. I don't. Because we're talking, and some of the key points, don't be in the front, and don't be the last person in the group. No, there's no mountain lions. That's been ruled out. There's no blood. The ones where the bodies are found, they aren't tore up, which is odd in itself, because animals will usually, a dead body, animals won't touch it. They bring in tracking dogs. Tracking dogs can't find a scent.
So it's very much just these people are walking there 1 minute and gone just within a step, like they've moved through some kind of dimensional door.
So there's been cases where these families, their child is in the front, and that's why I say don't be in the front, don't be in the back. Their child will be in the front. They're walking down a trail. The child walks around a corner, gone. No scream, no struggle, no nothing. Gone. They'll be walking along, and the person in the back, they'll turn around, and that person's gone. Again, no blood.
It's almost like a charge-discharge.
You ever see
You're
the
almost
movie?
wondering if the foot traffic, if you think about it, the human body is electric, and maybe as we're walking, okay, say you're on a popular hiking trail in an area that's got a lot of quartz.
Mm-hmm.
You know, quartz has the property of pressing on it, or you can induce a current. It's called piezoelectric. Maybe if you're in an area like that, the people that go ahead of you have charged up the quartz that's in the granite or in the area. So you go through and you put enough charge just by walking through. You induce enough charge into the granite that the quartz opens up the portal, and maybe the last person they don't see the portal, they're just walking along. It opens for that fraction of a second, swallows them up, they go into wherever, and maybe it's a lot of people go through, charge up the portal, and the first person hit.
I'm about to say, yeah, what about the one in the front?
Well, say a chain of people went ahead of you. Say, however many people it takes to trigger or charge, let's call it prime the portal, goes first. Well, then the first person in line of the next group hits that charged portal and goes wherever they send them. And then, it almost sounds like something is charging and discharging. If there was any way to know how many people had gone through the area first, because quartz, granite has, like you said, granite's got a lot of quartz in it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the people walking through that area have charged that portal. I don't know how many it would take.
Right.
But what's happening is they're charging it up. Then maybe the first person that comes through on another group is the one that hits the charged portal. Or if you got a long portal, you got everybody marching ahead, and by the time it gets to the last person in line, the portal is charged. It's so much the pattern that I've seen on this. It's like a doorway is opening and then closing right back.
Yeah, and
maybe when we find these people on the other side, they're like, well, we've got this dead body that has possibly you die going through that portal. And, if it's a parallel universe, say Eric Markham walks through the portal, shows up on the other side dead, but the Eric Markham in that reality is like, oh, no, I'm not dead. So instead of, maybe they figured it out, and that's why you get the people back with their clothes neatly folded next to them, but they're deader than 4 o'clock. Maybe on the other side of this parallel or on the other side of this portal, they're sending the duplicate back.
That could be. Because dimensional doorway is one of the theories that they were talking about. So there's 58 different cluster spots in North America. Some of them seem to be centered around berries, huckleberries, that kind of thing. Many missing around water or swamps. If you look at the cluster on the West Coast, they're all within 100 miles of the coast, of the ocean. There was one case where the guy was in crutches, had to have help getting out of his car. And they have a lot of cases with patterns where the people have disabilities, and then they have a lot of geniuses. We're talking doctors, we're talking physicists, almost like they're targeted. If they're found alive, they are unconscious and they're face down. And they're usually missing some of their clothes. And for some reason, their shoes are always gone. So they've had areas that have been scoured by search and rescue. I mean, we're talking for like weeks. And the body will be found in the exact same spot that SAR's already been. And yeah, like you just said, a lot of times they're never found, but they find their clothes and they're neatly folded. They've got people that had weapons. They had a guy that had a shotgun and the barrel was bent in half. And good night, Corey.
Like Bigfoot.
Hope you don't have nightmares.
Well, let's do our best to instill some.
All right. In other cases, the guy had the individual had a pistol, and the pistol was neatly taken apart and placed, neatly, disassembled. There was a 2-year-old that was found on the other side of a mountain range. And there's a case from 1931 where the child, this was an Australian case actually, disappeared from the backyard of their home and was found 15 miles away in the outback. A child can't walk. A 5-year-old can't walk or isn't going to walk 15 miles into the outback. Other times they found...
Unless it...
Huh? Other times they found a body on top of a mountain.
West Coast.
Go ahead.
Which sounds like Thunderbird activity.
It could be. Actually, someone asked Paulides, Paulides actually brought up the possibility that there are pterodactyls or dinosaur birds. He's as lost as everybody else is. He's trying to figure out, what's going on too. And he kind of brought that up.
Have there been any cases where the person that disappeared, have they ever found any cameras or action cams with any of these bodies?
With one of them.
Has anybody looked to see if they had one when they started out? Do they have their cameras with them when they come back, when they find the body? Is the action cam still on it?
There was one case where the boy was a Boy Scout. He got sick, and so his troop leader said, "Okay, you stay right here at this trail, and I'm going to take the rest of the troop on up the mountain, and I'll come back for you." He came back for him. He was gone. He kind of looked around. He found, what did he find? He found, I think, where the boy had eaten. He found a camera. They got the camera developed. They found one disturbing picture, and they timelined it to where they knew the boy had taken these pictures after they had left. But they found one disturbing picture where the boy took a picture of himself, and he looked completely terrified. They don't know why. They never found him. So that's the only. I think there were others, but like I said, I haven't seen all the video or heard all the audio because I've got like 6 different Paulides interviews that I'm going through. But real quick, so what I want to do, I'll pay the $12.99 for his cluster map. I won't pay $72 for a book, but he does sell his cluster maps with descriptions of the cases. For like $12.99, I can get that, and then I'll get my own map.
I think those are available on.
Those are on Amazon.
I think you can download them off of Google Images. Hang on.
Okay. What I want to do though, I want to get these cluster maps. I want to get the missing people hotspots. I want to do an overlay of all the UFO hotspots. Another overlay of all the Bigfoot hotspots. And then cover it all with ley lines. And see what comes up.
Okay, yeah, you can get those cluster maps are. You can get the missing 411 cluster maps. Let's see. There's 2015. Looks like they're. Wow, West Coast is very. My part of North Carolina's got a bunch of them.
Is it David Paulides cluster map?
Missing 411 attempts to shed light on strange missing persons cases.
Damn it. Hey, email that to me.
Alaska?
Send me an email.
Let me get this link.
Put a link up in the, if you could, put a link up in the chat room. Definitely put a link in the chat room.
I'm going to right now.
Good.
Here it comes.
And shoot me, actually just shoot me a Facebook message so I can look at it. I'll probably do some printing. I want to look at Washington for sure. I know he said he's really disturbed by the Columbian Gorge for our Washingtonians here. The Columbian Gorge apparently has a whole lot of missing people. And, cadaver dogs, tracking dogs, they don't pick anything up. In fact, they actually get scared and they kind of walk around in circles and lay down. So we went over folded clothes, weapons are taken apart, weapons are disassembled. The child, age 2, is found in a location he shouldn't have been able to go. There are cases where bodies are found off the trail and on top of a mountain range where they actually had to, mountain climb to get to the top of the mountain. How did this person that can't mountain climb wind up on top of the mountain? Yeah, okay, and if the victim
sounds
is
like
found,
we're dealing with portals of some kind.
We gotta be. It's either gotta be a dimensional doorway, a portal, which is why I asked about granite, or it could be alien. I'm not going to rule that out.
Einstein's theory of general relativity creates the possibility of wormholes or an Einstein-Rosen bridge. Maybe they don't just exist in space. I mean, it might be the situation is, say, after an electrical storm in the mountains, these wormholes open up, and that's how people are jumping from one place to another.
That's the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
And it might be fatal going through it.
Storms seem to be a big part in this. As soon as a person goes missing, a storm hits. Whether it's snow or a thunderstorm, but usually the storm is so bad that they can't get in search and rescue teams. There was a case in New Mexico where this woman went missing. A storm hit. They couldn't get to her. Actually, her cell phone pinged. It called somebody. I'm not even sure if I took notes on this case. So, okay. So she dialed 911. 911 went to the non-emergency number. And they're like, well, we can't help you because you need to call 911. She said, I did. They said, well, hang up and call 911 again. So she hits 911 again. Same thing. This happens 9 times. Finally, she hits 911. Well, about that time, a storm hit. They couldn't get search and rescue in. they requested, and for whatever political reason, they couldn't get a helicopter in there. Finally, they did, but the helicopter crashed with her in it. Final Destination comes to mind with that one. But when it's all said and done, the chief of the sheriff or whoever for 911 said that's never happened in the history of their 911 system. They've never had an issue with 911 calling the non-emergency number, ever.
Of course, that could have just been a glitch in the cell tower, and it couldn't connect with 911 where she was at.
More likely.
There probably, if we looked into it, there may be a protocol that somebody was thinking and said, well, what if they can't get 911 from here? And then they didn't bother passing the memo on.
There's
I would think there'd be like a backup.
Oh, the common theme seems to be between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. That's when the most cases have come up missing, which is odd.
Oh, it's also right after, well, that's kind of like after school, before dinner. That's like a time where a lot of people probably go out and do recreational, right after work or, right after school, let's go out and run or do something.
So
that may just coincide with people's natural.
It could. And I'm glad Joe's here. Yosemite National Park. How close to Yosemite are you? It'll take him a minute to answer, but Yosemite National Park has the #1 cluster of all of them globally. Has the highest number of clusters of disappearances. So what are the boundaries of Yosemite National Park? And we're talking these cases in Yosemite go back hundreds of years. And I actually talked to Christina George earlier today, and I asked her, so in relation of distance, how close is Bohemian Grove to Yosemite? And she said they're hundreds of miles. There's no relation with Bohemian Grove to Yosemite. So Yosemite, let's talk about Yosemite for a second. It's got the half-dome solid granite, which is 5,000 foot tall, the tallest waterfall in the United States, 500 sequoias, which are 3,000 years old, 225,000 acres of old growth. Here's what I want you to look up. How many of these clusters are UNESCO World Heritage Sites? UNESCO. That's what I'm curious about, too. Punch in UNESCO World Heritage Site and see what all comes up.
Okay.
So,
I'm also, one of the things that might be going on with Yellowstone is if you look at the yearly traffic through Yellowstone, it's ungodly. As a matter of fact, I think they've actually had to limit, because it's in the 30,000, 30,000 or better. They've actually, Yellowstone hosts around 4 million visits each year. So that could be why you get such a spike in disappearances there.
Well,
Plus, probably. You consider, not to run people down, but I used to do guided tours of Land Between the Lakes because I knew where all the eagles were nesting, the bald eagles. And I took people out there that, oh my God, if they were out there on their own, you'd never see them again. And there's people that go into a natural area like that think, oh, it's just a big park. They don't, the fact that it's called wilderness doesn't quite, quite dig in until they find themselves. You want to know about UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
But Yosemite, And it has 3.5 million visitors a year, which is probably why you have a spike there as well. If you that part doesn't make sense. Yosemite was established October 1st of 1890.
Yeah, I looked up the wrong one.
Oh, no, you're fine. It's got 750,000 acres. That's a wide mass. So in Yosemite, we've got George Pinka. He was with a church group. He went hiking with his church group, and he was in the back of the group. What did I say about the back, people in the back? He was on a...
Don't be there.
No. He was on a paved trail. We're not even talking about, a rough dirt trail. We're talking a paved blacktop trail. And gone. They never found him. So Yosemite is right next to Sequoia National Park, which is also has clusters. So talking about the granite, we have Sheeprock, Colorado, 980 foot tall. We have, and here's another thing, and there's a lot of clusters of missing people with the name Devil in the location. Now, that could be a quinky dink, that could
Makes
be
you
just...
think there's a history.
Well, yeah, what gives them the name Devil? Well, I mean, I have a Devil's Lake here in Mount Vernon. But, and it's supposed to be a bottomless lake. But, so we got Devil's Lookout, Colorado, which is 940 foot tall. Lots of gemstones in the area. There was a disabled man that disappeared there. I believe he was the one that was in crutches. Got his, had somebody help him get out of his car. Got his gemstone, his rock hammer and all that out. Had to have help getting out of the car. Where'd he go? Now, Devil's Lookout is only 10 miles from the Sheeprock disappearance. So there's 2 disappearances within 10-mile radius. Then we got Three Sisters Wilderness, Oregon. Disappeared on the South Sister, which is 10,368 foot. Her name is Corwin Osborne. We got Mount of the Holy Cross, Colorado, 14,011 foot tall. Her name is Michelle Vanek, disappeared in rock. Nowhere to hide. She was with somebody. Now, a lot of these people were alone. No witnesses. They found the clothes. They found the shoes. They had a kid, a little boy that was 5 years old. Went missing. They found his body. They found his body 4 years later. His shoes looked brand new. Still pristine, the bright colors. His clothes were in good shape. And they can't, for most of them, they can't find it, cause of death. Now, Mount Shasta, I've got my own theories about Mount Shasta. It's a known alien base. But the guy that went missing was an American airline pilot and a known runner. We're talking people that are in the prime of their health. I mean, and have a lot to lose if they come up missing. And the ones that are found, here's where, I'm not an advocate for hypnotherapy when it comes to alien abduction. I think this would be a good potential for hypnotherapy, though, to find out what's going on here. So this is where we need to look at Native American lore. We also have the Highway of Tears in British Columbia. I believe Dave's talked about Highway of Tears, hasn't he, Markham?
Yeah, he's been trying to get a good guest on that. We were hoping that with James having, RCMP connections, we could get somebody to talk about that. Yeah, RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Yeah.
We were hoping that we could get something through there. So I'm not sure where he's at. Next time we have a conference call, I'll ask him about that, because he wanted to do a show on that.
According to
I think it sounds like, with the research I've done, it just sounds like people. Somebody's cruising up and down that road and just picking off. I believe they call it victim of convenience.
Yeah, it's a serial killer.
The guy's cruising and there's. Yeah.
Oh, and that came from one of the Pilates interviews as well, because the Highway of Tears came up. And for those that haven't heard about it, there's a series, a whole bunch of missing women along the Highway of Tears in British Columbia that some think is Bigfoot. I just think it's a serial killer. Just basically going by what I heard today. And it makes sense. I'm not just jumping on because
victim of opportunity.
Yeah, and that's common. I mean, if it's along one strip of highway, that's usually a crime situation. And a lot of people think these missing people in national parks is either a pedophile, serial killer. That's kind of been ruled out already, because again, the people missing, they're missing in front of their families. You don't hear a scream. You don't hear there's no struggle. If a child walked around a corner and someone snatched them up, you would see, a struggle or something in the pine needles. A scream. You'd hear a commotion. So I don't think it's a crime thing. And there's one case that they found the child's body. They found a tooth. I think this is the child that was missing for 4 years. They found his tooth on a bed of pine needles. And, the investigators were saying, after 4 years, that tooth would have been buried in pine needles. Not sitting on top of the pine needles. And they found his skull cap.
Yeah, that sounds too much like posed.
So,
they found his what?
Skull cap. And it had scratches in it. Yeah, that was in Colorado.
Oh, like somebody had trepanned the top of his
head. Wow. Yeah.
Sounds like somebody did an autopsy.
Yeah, that was in Colorado. I just pulled that up, actually. The child was 3 when he went missing. 4 years later, they found his shoes. They just come out of the store. Pants were turned inside out. Sweatshirt was in good shape after 4 years. Tooth found on top of the bed of pine needles. Skull cap was sitting there as well and had scratches inside it. Big storms come in when they start the search. And if you're interested in, there's a case, the mother actually wrote a book about this called Searching for Anna. Go on Amazon and look for Searching for Anna. And it's written by the mother. Her child was missing in 1973. And they had a creek in the backyard. Hey, good night, Christopher. Yeah, thanks for coming in. So they came in looking for this child. They searched, 5 miles downstream, verified, that even if she had drowned and floated down the stream, she would have stopped within half a mile because of logs that were in the way. They found a part of her clothing upstream. The body doesn't float upstream. So, yeah, look for searching for Anna. Sounds like a good one. I might have to pick that one up, actually. So then they came up with Bermuda Triangle, because right now they also have missing cars, missing airplanes. Now, something to look at too, and if you're taking notes, I mean, you can listen to the show anytime, but if you're taking notes, I'd be curious what HAARP's doing. And if HAARP was involved, making storms come up after someone comes up missing, just a theory here, obviously, that would show government involvement. Yeah, and
Or maybe HAARP is just charging the stone.
that could be too. HAARP is making them disappear.
That long wave might be right. It's making it so much as resonance. You got to wonder if they're not, if HAARP isn't causing some kind of harmonic vibration in the stone that causes a portal to open up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the girl that hit 911 9 times was in New Mexico. She was a nanophysicist. Now, here's something I was thinking about. What if, going out on a very large limb here, like we do on the show all the time, but if they're targeting doctors, physicists, and maybe children that are going to cause something in the future, and they take them to the secret space program to start another colony, just something to throw out there. And on that note, too, what if it's some kind of dimensional doorway that opens up, and they're taking people that are going to make changes that they don't like in the future? There's a lot of
Timeline manipulation.
Right. A lot of kids missing. And
yeah, it could be.
You just never know. I'm going through notes here. So yeah, I need to look at Cascades. Okay, so in Australia, for our Aussies in the group, we have 15 cases in New South Wales. I'll look up a little boy named Shields. This happened in 1931. Mossfield, outside of Sydney. Boy disappeared outside his house, was found 45, it wasn't 15, it was 45 miles from his home at 5 years of age. Another case, a little boy was missing for 11 days. No food or water. Was found alive and just fine. How does a little boy survive with no food or water for 11 days?
He doesn't.
No.
Not. Well, when they found him alive, what did he say? What was his
They
story?
don't. That's the other thing. They don't know what happened. They don't know where they went. They don't know why they were missing. They don't know what day it is. I'll have to go back and listen again because there were some interesting comments from kids talking about dogs and cats and talking about What were some of the other words they said? I mean, we're talking, it's easy to get away with stuff, taking kids, because the kids don't know what to say. If it's dimensional. So there were 5 cases where aircraft crashed while looking for the missing people. Hold on a sec here.
It's almost like you are not going to find. We've got an effort to make them disappear. You are not going to find them.
Right. And we're talking kids walking 12 to 15 miles without shoes. No shoes.
Yeah.
Shoes, for some
Depends
reason.
on the territory. I mean, I never wore shoes in the summer.
Well, shoes seems to play a big role in this.
I wonder if it's because of what shoes are made out of. Maybe it's the synthetics that have to find out if they were synthetics or if they were like leather,
Or
what they were made out of.
Or shoes are
If they
conductors.
were just regular sneakers, they're probably all. Well, there again, it depends. If they're wearing just sneakers,
Yeah.
it's all synthetic fiber or synthetic. It's all synthetic materials. Even the rubber soles anymore are like a synthetic rubber. So you almost wonder if there's something about them going through whatever is going through that they dissolve or they don't make the trip. It'd be interesting to know what the clothes are made out of as opposed to the missing shoes. Maybe natural fibers can pass through, like if they're wearing cotton and denim or something that is made of natural fibers, wool, cotton. Those organics can pass through, but the synthetic stuff can't.
Right. So some of these hot spots that people are missing that I did write down are Shasta Trinity National Park, Everglades National Park, Baxter State Park has 2 people missing on the Appalachian State Trail. Big Sur Station in Lod Padre National Forest, Denali National Park, Alaska. All that was found was the guy's shoes. Kings Canyon National Park on the Sierra. Glacier National Park. Clothing was found in 1 sneaker a year later. Chirawaga National Forest in Arizona. That was a park ranger. Rocky Mountain National Park was a 1933 case. Yellowstone National Park. We won't even go into the numbers there. Great Lakes, in general, just the Great Lakes is a hotspot of clusters. Three Sisters Wilderness, Deschutes National Forest. Trinity Alps. The guy's guitar was found 6 miles away in rough terrain. He wasn't found, but his guitar was found where he shouldn't have been. The Ketchikan Deer Mountain Trail, Alaska. Sierra Nevada, Pacific Crest Trail. Vanished from the parents. Couldn't have scaled the peak. San Gorgonio was the Boy Scout. Camp Sloan, Lakeville, Connecticut, 1952. Father died in 2012. Never did find his daughter. Yosemite National Park, well, we already discussed that one. 3 different missing. In 2015, there were 3 different cases in 1 month in the same area. So why isn't the national park interested?
Yeah, they have enough trouble with their budget already. They don't want to. They don't want to create a.
You know what?
Sensation where nobody wants to come there.
I bet Trump would do something.
Those are some of the most underpaid people. The average park ranger.
Right.
Because when I started in college, that's what I wanted to be. And when I saw, I think the year this is back really before the internet was widespread. There was this big book, and at one of the orientation classes, they'd ask, "What do you want to? What are you here for?" And I threw up my hand. I said, "I want to be wildlife resources officer, blah blah, park ranger." Popped open the big book and said, "Well, let's see. Nationwide, let's think of some ridiculous number like 300 jobs available. Most of them require a master's degree or better, and average pay was like 7 something an hour." It's like, well, crap. I was making that before. I was making that as a tool repairman. I didn't really, I couldn't see spending 4 years in college, 6 years in college for the master's,
Right.
to lose ground. So,
Okay. So that's everything laid out. Now, what could be causing it? Let's talk alien abduction, alien interaction. What do you think? Think it's possible?
I would lean toward more like MyLab abduction than alien abduction, because I don't know, by and large, the aliens, unless it's some reptilian race that's just considering that a buffet line, for the ones that never show back up. I guess that could be.
We know
you get the ones that come back with their stuff, they're intact.
We know the reptilians live in nests in mountain areas. We know they cloak. It'd be real easy for them to cloak and then, poof, gone.
Yeah.
But why do some of them get returned? If that was the case. Mount Shasta.
Yeah,
Now,
I don't think it's. I think if reptilians. I think in the case of somebody that disappears forever and ever, no trace is ever seen, that might be a grocery run. But the ones where they show back up with their clothes folded, their shoes, those sound suspiciously like MyLab, because nobody will screw the American people over like their own government will.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just see, some experiment being done and, toss the body back out. We don't want it lead back here. I could see somebody having in a black ops type of organization having that mindset.
Yeah. What we need to do is get our UFO hotspots, our known alien bases, and put them spread out on the map of all the missing people and see what relates.
Interposed over each other, yeah.
Yep. Now, I know Mount Shasta, and I've got that written down too. Find out where all the hollow earth openings are, because Mount Shasta is a known hollow earth spot. So is Death Valley. So, Mount Shasta, you could easily just, walk into, because I know that one case in Mount Shasta, he was by himself. That was the airline pilot. And, I mean, hey, if you walked in and found a friendly race of aliens and they had their own city inside the mountain, would you really want to go back?
No. I'd chill.
So,
Well, in Death Valley, I could see where that could be mostly natural causes. You get out there, I know we had people that would get brought in to our emergency room because they would go trekking out near Grapevine Valley or Christmas Tree Pass or, nearby, would get lost, would rely strictly on GPS and would get turned around, didn't have a map, didn't have a compass to fall back on, and they would come, they'd only be out there a day, but you don't have to be out very long in like the Mojave Desert without water before you are in bad shape.
And that's the thing with
I could see somebody going to Death Valley succumbing to heat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you die out there, food is scarce. I mean, there's a lot of bugs and there's a lot of scavengers out there. I could see where if somebody died in Death Valley, you wouldn't ever see them again because they would be consumed. Right? Even the mice would eat the bones. I mean,
True.
It probably wouldn't take a week in that kind of heat for a body to disappear completely in Death Valley or not be recognizable as a body.
Okay, my headset's giving me issues. And then with the cases of hypothermia, there was no hypothermia. Are you still there, Markham?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was no hypothermia.
No hypothermia because their clothes. Trying to think how to explain it. Their clothes were found before they could get hypothermia. Like they were taken off before they could get hypothermia.
Well, actually, it is sort of counterintuitive. People strip off, but you think of how you've been in the desert. You know how the Bedouins and the people that live there wrap themselves in layers of, sheets or whatever to help with the heat. If you get hot and start stripping off your clothes, you're basically opening up more surface area to be burned.
Right.
Were these people, some of these people, the ones that found naked, were they sunburned at all?
Not that I heard.
Because it doesn't, okay, because I know I got a wicked sunburn in Arizona one day, and I bet I wasn't outside 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Just boom, that fast. And I'm kind of dark complected. I got a little bit of pigment from my Cherokee ancestors.
Yeah, no. None of them to my knowledge. And like I said, I haven't gone through everything, all of my information yet either. So I
It
think,
seems like there's more for every question, for every answer that they try to give us, there's more questions.
right. Now, does anyone in our audience have any questions? I think, so we have thousands of missing people. I don't think it's all one thing that's taking them all.
No, I think it's a combination.
I think it's a combination. Some of them are eaten by reptilians.
I think you probably just got right. The ones you never see again might become prey for some kind of predator,
Mm-hmm.
or just broad spectrum any predator. Some of them are just inept at wilderness skills and go someplace that they shouldn't. So human error.
Right.
And then that leaves a good percentage to be, not everybody goes out in the woods and comes up missing as a total dork. So there's got to be a component in there somewhere that's making people that should be okay are disappearing.
Okay, so now we have Bigfoot and other cryptids. To my knowledge, we have Bigfoot. I don't know of anything else here. Maybe Dogman. Now, the cases in the South and in the East Coast Hell, they've got Mothman, they've got Dogman, they've got a whole bunch. They got a whole array. You got the Jersey Devil in New Jersey. You know, you've got a whole array of creatures that could be taking things. But I don't see.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I think that the Jersey Devil has been, if it ever existed in the form they talk about, I'm not particularly. You know, I think it's come and gone. I don't think it's still there.
No, there's nothing new.
Yeah, I mean, other than some sketchy eyewitness crap that really, if you're out in the dark, already primed to see something scary in the woods, and a great horned owl, something goes flapping through the trees, well, yeah, I've had great horned owls go flapping around me, and it's startling. And they're big. I mean, you're talking about an owl with a, you know, you take your arms and spread them out. That's about what you get for a adult great horned owl.
Right.
So yeah, I could see that in the Pine Barrens, something like that being attributed as a Jersey Devil sighting.
I don't see Bigfoot taking humans.
Well, it depends. I see. There seems to be God, what was his name? Dave, the guy we had on SOR Friday, was talking about how there seems to be a difference. Doug Ward, there seems to be a difference in the Pacific Northwest and like the southern, like around my area in Texas. There seem to be different behavior patterns for Bigfoot. And I'm almost, but if you look at the Native Americans are, by and large, leave them alone. They can't be trusted. So, you know, don't screw with them, but you know, don't disrespect them, but don't go actively messing around with them.
Right. Yeah, because I know the ones in the South and in your area are known to be aggressive. They'll come after you, whereas the ones here, just leave me alone kind of attitude, but not aggressive.
Well, I think that might be because, well, they've always called, like in Ohio, the Ohio grassman. When you look back at the Patterson-Gimlin, you know, I kind of look at the Patterson-Gimlin is the beginning of the modern Bigfoot era. If you go before that, they're not called Bigfoot or Sasquatch so much as they're called hairy man, wild man. In this area, they call them swamp boogers, or, you know, anything that's like a boogeyman, or they were called boogers. Mm-hmm. If you look back in older reports, you will find that a lot of the more aggressive in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, that in lower Indiana, that they are a more aggressive, or they made the news because they attacked people. And it seems like the further south you go, the meaner these things get.
Well, it's hot and humid. I don't blame them.
Yeah. Wearing a fur coat you could never take off. I'd be foul-tempered too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you think about, okay, this is something that happens. This is something that happens with grizzly bears. They fight and they bite each other's skulls. They have very thick skulls. They break teeth. Anybody who has ever had a rotten, aching tooth the agony that is. They say sometimes these bears go berserk because they are in such incredible pain that they just go on a rampage.
I
Now
can see that.
you've got what if some of these, something that lives, maybe it has something to do with diet or something some mineral deficiency in the South. These things might be running around with a mouthful of dental pain, and that would make anybody. That's just something to throw out there.
Well,
A
even
connection that
infection.
I've just randomly thought about.
Right.
Yeah, just any kind of chronic discomfort that you don't have a way of to make, to lessen the pain will drive you, angry. Will create an anger response.
Well, no, but infection can drive you mad.
Oh yeah, you get feverish.
Mm-hmm. So
I see a lot of people post-op.
So no, if they broke a
coming
tooth,
out their painkillers and stuff, coming up with wild crap.
right? So if they broke a tooth and it got infection in there,
Yeah, you think about having worse. Oh yeah, because we don't know if say that the West Coast, everything's mellower on the West Coast. Okay, let's say that that culture, because I'm sure that a lot of these creatures have separate cultures depending on region, just like we as human beings have, upstate Yankees are different than deep South. Southerners are different from, every region, there's cultural differences. Why shouldn't Sasquatch be the same?
mm-hmm.
And maybe in the West Coast, it seems like in some of the places they live, it will be a little harder to get by. So maybe everybody that in that community of creatures are related somehow. There's not that big a population. They've learned to get along better. Down south, where you have a longer growing season, you have more availability of prey. They might overpopulate a little bit, or I don't know. There might be some environmental factor that's causing them to be more aggressive down here.
That could be too.
But like I said, if humans themselves have cultural differences, I would think that these human-like, or this whatever we decide they finally become, any great ape or monkey or primates form communities and form cultures. That's one of the things about us. So if these things are near human intelligence or on a par with us, I'm sure that different areas have different behaviorals.
Right. Okay, moving along. So we have portal, wormhole, paradigm shift. And I think I'll throw the dimensional doorway into that one as well, because it's all kind of the same. I mean, portals are portals are portals. And I think that's a real possibility. I've always thought that ever since, 3-4 years ago when I started looking into this, I thought portals were a good possibility on that one. They're just the way they disappear out of the blue, almost in front of their parents with the kids. And
yeah, that sounds like a portal of some kind.
It does. And I mean, so you've got someone walking behind you, 5-6 foot behind you, and all of a sudden they're gone. No noise, no nothing. That seems dimensional to me, or portal to me. Especially if you factor in the granite with crystal. Seems like a good possibility. Again, especially with the ones that don't come back.
Right.
Now, I think the way to get answers, and the thing with Paulides, he will not contact anybody. They have to contact him. And I can respect that. Because you don't want to...
You got to kiss his butt. Well...
You don't want to appear disrespectful. You don't want to infringe on their privacy. So, the people are just happy they got their loved one back. Don't want to look into it anymore.
Right.
Okay, so you don't want to push that button. But I think if you wanted answers, that would be the main way to get your answers. Is if you did hypnotherapy on the ones that made it back.
I'm almost wondering, instead of hypnotherapy, using what the like the intelligence services. To me, hypnotic regression, and all that. I'm always skeptical in that I'm afraid that the mind fabricates. Where if if they're trying to bust a spy or get the knowledge of a spy, like sodium pentothal, or, I think using psychoactive chemical recovery would probably be better.
But if they do hypnotherapy, they don't use drugs. Or if they have regressive hypnosis, does not use medication.
Right. But a lot of times I think you get a lot of chaff with the wheat when you do regression therapy. I would not trust anything just because of all the crap I've read, the things I've done. I don't know if I would ever really trust no matter how good the therapist was.
Right.
I don't think I would ever trust anything came out of my mouth, just because I wouldn't. I just don't think. I've read too much sci-fi. I'm too deep into this paranormal stuff. I don't think anything I could come up with under hypnosis would be legit. I just would figure my subconscious is fill in the blanks.
Yeah, and that's always possible. And again, it comes back to how good is the hypnotherapist or the regressive, and whether they ask leading questions or open-ended questions, or it's all about how your psychiatrist, because essentially that's what they are, takes it and their approach. So now we have government, and I threw in secret space program with that, which I think that's too far outside the box, but it is always a possibility. Based on the fact that you have so many...
Well, like you mentioned earlier, it might just be with the kind of people that are just some of these physicists, and that might be if these people are disappearing forever, they might be instructed, you will go here at a given time and date, and you'll disappear in the wild, and that'll be the why you don't show up, but they're actually toiling away or doing work at one of the secret bases.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. Except for the nano what was she? The nanophysicist who crashed in a helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost...
Final Destination comes to mind.
Yes.
She wasn't meant to come out.
Yes, very. That, or she wouldn't sign the contract.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, no problem. I'll send you back home. You know, she took the red pill instead of the blue pill or whatever, and that's what.
So, government's possibility. Pterodactyl dinosaur, I don't buy it because no one spotted one.
Yeah, and something like that swooping down in the trees and peeling somebody off would be. I'm sure there'd be some noise. I can almost see like a big cat because of the way they attack. They grab by the throat and they swat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a mountain lion grabs the last person in the line and it's a child, you're not going to get a lot of blood because the teeth are still in the holes, and the way a big cat will swat at its prey, they break ribs. Now, you're not screaming, you're not doing anything but trying to catch your breath if you've got broke ribs. I just know that from personal experience.
Right.
So there might be, some of these people that disappear at the end of the line or they're out of sight. That might be mountain lions, and they carry them away. There's no blood because mostly the impact is internal with the swat, and while the teeth are in the throat, which is they tend to, the swat does one thing, but they go for the throat. Big cats go for the throat and strangle their prey. You're not going to bleed because the teeth are in the meat. And, the blood's not splatter. It's not like a blood splatter type thing. That comes later after they get them up in the tree.
I would think you'd hear something, though.
Well, okay, think of the padded, they're stealth predators. They've got very padded paws.
A crush.
They tend to jump down from tree. I don't know. I think it's plausible that a big cat, being a stealth ambush predator, could pick the person at the end of the line out and get away with it.
It's possible.
I'm not saying that's all of them, but I'm saying there's got to be a few where you've got this really adept ambush predator, big cat that's, getting a few of these people.
Yeah, and that's come up. That's come up in a few of the different discussions he's done, and that is possible for some of them. And then you've got demons or other entities. I don't think it's demons or other entities.
No, I don't either. I'm very skeptical of anything that when they start calling demon.
Right. So a selective abduction of people that have changed the course of history. And that would be from time travelers, obviously. Because you got so many scientists, because you got so many doctors, and I would say if they're a time traveler, they know the future of the select kids that are missing. I would say that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Using dimensional doors to do it.
And I think that the crystallized structure of those areas probably, make it an easy way of grabbing people.
Mm-hmm.
You set up a resonance in the granite, somebody walks through the portal, and boom. Next thing they know, they're in wherever. 3,000 years in the future, or when you look at some of the historical figure, you take somebody like Leonardo da Vinci, who just seemed to be a man out of time. And there's this whole mythology around him in a crystal cave type thing, almost Merlin-esque. You almost got to wonder if he's not somebody that, from modern-ish times, the early 19th, early 20th century, they hit a portal and ended up back in, Venice, Italy.
Now, so we got thousands of people missing a year. What about the Anasazi?
The whole culture gone.
A whole culture disappeared. In much the same way as all these people are disappearing. Dinner plates.
Yeah, they were hiding from somebody. I mean, the way they built their houses, their homes. I mean, that is one of the great mysteries. There's a author out there, I can't think of his name. His name of the book he wrote was Anasazi Dreams. And it's supposedly a real story. I don't think so, but I think it's the literary version of found footage movie. But that they ascended by their culture apparently achieved a higher vibration and they just winked out. And one of the possibilities is the Incas or the Aztec. I forgot which one of those warrior groups, maybe both, Mayans, came up, found them, and rounded them all up and wholesale and took them back down south to be slaves.
What about Roanoke? Didn't Roanoke disappear as well?
Well, with Roanoke, the lost colony, what you have is people who were not well prepared for where they were dropped off. The Hudson Bay, was it the Hudson Bay? Dust off my history a minute. Well, anyhow, the charter group that dropped them off said, "Okay, we'll be back in a few months with some supplies." These people didn't know how to live off the land and the rescue missions. Oh my God! It's almost a good movie in that they got blown. They came over. They didn't realize. I think they tried to come back over during hurricane season. So you had these people. They blew down past Roanoke. And then they lost anchors. I mean, it's epic. It takes 15 minutes to go through just the rescue attempts. Now, think about hurricane season and storm swell.
Right.
These people are English peasant country people. They don't know for storm surge, tsunami, hurricane weather. And they were plopped right down there in probably the most hurricane-prone area. So their whole thing, they could have been swept out. There weren't that many there to start with. And they might have just gotten swept out, or I think the latest theory is they went inland to get away from the weather, the snakes, and the bugs, and just basically ended up probably assimilated into one of the southeastern Indian tribes. They might have ended up with the Cherokee or, the Lumbee, some form, or as they traveled inland, they kind of disappeared for, by attrition. Yellow fever. And, if these people die in that area between the scavengers, there's not, by the time the rescue party got there there probably weren't any traces left.
That's probably, it's probably feasible with that one. Anasazi, obviously, that's a completely different, because, I mean, they had dinner plates on their table still. They had them, they disappeared, leaving their life intact.
Yeah,
Literally.
they, like, right in the middle of their day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an office building, everybody inside an office building right in the middle of the workday disappearing.
Yeah. Now, that's why I asked about Roanoke, because, I thought Roanoke was similar, but...
There is a lot of plausible. And keeping in mind, if one of the ways these charter companies made money was getting people to sign up and go to the New World.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all like in Australia where it was a penal colony, where it wasn't all indentured servants, like part of the, the upper East Coast of the United States. They would get these people to sign up, and they would deliberately paint a rosy picture.
Mm-hmm.
So they get there, find out that the Roanoke colony pissed off the local Indians and were slaughtered wholesale. They're not going to go back and say, well, need more colonists. That last batch got wiped out by the natives. There could have been that's bad for business.
That's bad
You're not going to
business.
get a lot of recruits. So I would think maybe there might have been a cover-up. It might not have been that it was a lost colony. It might have just been the people that went there were the organizers of that colony, the money people, the decision makers, and it might have just been we don't dare say what happened, or we'll never get any of these people back to come back. I mean, Jamestown almost, the Jamestown, when they started going through the archaeology there, the story we were told in history class doesn't come close. Mm-hmm. There was cannibalism there. These people got left in the worst. It's like taking somebody that lived in downtown Detroit or downtown New York, dropping them off in the middle of the Great Dismal Swamp with a pocket knife, a shoestring, and a can of hash. Here. I mean, those people did not know they set up their colony in the wrong place. You got to figure if the native people weren't living there, there's probably a reason. Right. It probably wasn't fit to live in. So a lot of the early colonies and a lot of their false starts, I think, were just a matter of people, organizers not knowing enough about it, and these lost colonies weren't so much lost as they died the hell out. Mm-hmm. They were not a people that were ready to be, or it's just you take in modern vernacular, you take a bunch of city slickers and drop them in the middle of the national forest and tell them out. We'll see you in about a year.
Yeah. Hope you make it.
Yeah. The diseases, the conditions, the diseases, the heat, the humidity. Jamestown was not a pleasant place to be dropped off. And they were damn near sick. They were already sick by the time they got here. You think of these boats.
Crossing the ocean in a boat.
Yeah, these ships they had some. I've been, years ago, I saw the ones, mock-ups of what they came over from England in at Jamestown. Mm-hmm. Holy crap, we have fishing boats. Privately owned fishing boats that are bigger than I could not believe how tiny they were. Mm. And you're looking at what, a month and a half, 2 months, depending on the time of year, cooped up in something that's basically smaller than a little camper.
Right.
These boats, I think it was 20 feet. anyhow, they're tiny, and you got all these people crammed in there. You're not in the best of health by the time you get here. So,
Well, not to mention the diseases that ran rampant back in that era by
well, yeah,
themselves. So,
right.
I mean,
The old
measles,
world illnesses.
mumps.
Well, you could just get a cut
Yeah,
and
true.
die because there were no antibiotics.
No.
They treated, that's one of the theories about Mozart is back in the 1700s, they treated diseases with mercury. And, that's how they treated part of how they treated on the Lewis and Clark, like the syphilis, the clap, and everything like that, the venereal diseases, was to use a probe to kind of and this goes back to 1500s.
Right.
You used a probe, a sounding probe, to ream out the infection, and then you shot mercury up into the urethra.
Mm-hmm.
That was the standard cure for, and we all know now mercury causes madness.
Or kills you.
Where the Mad Hatter comes from, because hatters, the guys that made the hats and prepared the skins, the beaver pelts and that for hats, use mercury in the tanning process.
Oh,
So
okay.
the cumulative effect of working with mercury, you get mad as a hatter because the mercury build up and these guys would get nuts. So you've got the medicine of the day is a strike against you because they're trying to cure you with a poison heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it comes to the lost colonies and the East Coast missing things, I think a lot of that was just ill-prepared human error. But like you said, with the Anastasi, I think if I could travel in time, that would be the first place I would go, is want to see, if I could do it as an observer where I didn't get caught up in it. I would love to go back and see what happened to those.
Sure. Our last possibility is fairies or any part of the fairy realm, which that's a possibility for maybe a couple of them. But overall, I think we're looking at mostly alien and dimensional doorways. I really do.
I really lean toward the dimensional doorway just because of the composition. That lines up scientifically the things that could cause a portal.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed a lot, that seems to be a sweet spot. The minerals, the electrical activity. I think there's something going on there that science hasn't looked into enough to quantify. But either some kind of wormhole or some kind of naturally occurring portals, wormholes, something in that vein, and then aliens. Can't. I mean, since Ike made his deal, you can't. And that is a convenient place if you want somebody to work in a black ops type of thing. Think
Right.
Men in Black, where they erase the guy from all records. That's out there in the middle of no man's land like that is a good place to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, Andy, because Andy leans with the dimensional doorway along with us. And do you guys have granite in Australia? I'm not sure if you've looked into these missing people's cases or not, but there's a lot of these cases where they're missing around granite mountains with a lot of granite in them.
What's Ayers Rock? Is that sandstone or is it a?
Which one?
Andy, are you with us? What Ayers Rock? Andy, if you're there, what's the composition of Ayers Rock? I know the Aboriginals have a quite a mystique about Ayers Rock. Okay, Andy says he does believe they do have granite.
Right, and that fits right along in line with, and I'm not sure if you're listening earlier, I'm going to recap on the Australian case. Here in a second, let me scroll down.
Oh. Okay, he doesn't know what Ayers Rock is. I will look. Isn't it amazing? We take this for granted.
What's that?
Well, I don't because. Well, I don't so much because, good God, if I'd had the internet back when I was in college, it would have been a research paper would have been so much easier. But
Right.
you know, my dad and I will be talking about something, and it's like it will occur to us, hell, we got all the information in the world at our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it's like you don't have to run to the
Library.
the library. Or my mom actually signed up to sell. Oh God, what were those things? World Book Encyclopedias.
Oh God, yeah.
Just to get the discount. Yeah. Okay. Ayers Rock is a sandstone monument.
Okay.
So, but sandstone is basically silica, and sandstone might have its own properties.
Mm-hmm.
It's soft, but sandstone in its own right might have some qualities that we're not touching on.
I'll have to look that up in some of my books for sandstone. But Andy, so we have 15 cases in New South Wales. And one was a little boy named Shields. He was in Mossfield outside of Sydney, happened in 1931. He disappeared outside his house. He was found 45 miles from his house at the age of 5. How does a 5-year-old travel 45 miles into the outback? Another case, the little boy was missing for 11 days, no food or water. They found him alive just fine. That's two cases in Australia out of 15. You got 15 different, and we're talking. I haven't even got done with my research, and we're gonna carry this on. This will be a future recap, basically. We'll recap this because this is interesting to say the least. And just to start wrapping it up, what I'm gonna do, and what I encourage y'all to do, if you find maps, for one, we're doing a Hollow Earth theories later on. But what I want to do is when we do the Hollow Earth theories show, we're going to look at the locations of known alien underground bases, the Hollow Earth openings, UFO hotspots, Bigfoot hotspots, and ley lines. And what I like to do is do overlays of all of them in conjunction with the plethora of missing people's clusters.
Yeah, I think there's some data to correlate there. I think we're going to find that those areas there's going to be a lot of overlap and a lot of superimposition. That we're going to find the Bigfoot sightings, the UFO, the disappearances are going to there's going to be a huge overlay of these phenomena in that area. Just from
yeah,
looking at the images without actually overlaying them.
right.
The Bigfoot sighting, UFO sighting, just looking at them on individual pages, they overlap almost perfectly.
And I live right in the middle of a lot of it. So this summer, we're going to take our patio. We're going to completely enclose it. It's already enclosed with screen, but we're going to enclose it with plexiglass, put an outdoor carpet out there, basically put my studio, my mate's sewing room, put a day bed in there for guests, and it's going to be our Forest Moon Paranormal QRT office. Then I'll be able to put maps with overlays and mission boards and the whole 9 yards out there, and be able to look at it and go, "Yep, that's a hot spot," But any questions as we start winding tonight down? Be looking for Missing 411, the movie. I'm not sure if it's released. I looked at what I thought was the Missing 411 movie on YouTube, and there's no way in hell that was a Paulides anything, really.
Just somebody trying to capitalize.
And there's a lot of that. He's actually, I've been following some of his posts, and that, yeah, he's actually going after an entire Facebook group that invited him in only to use his name, and then they kicked him out. And he's taken them to court. So, and there is a lot of that, indeed. And they're messing with the wrong person, because we're talking about a guy that's got a whole lot of friends in high places, and his law enforcement background. Mm-hmm. So he knows his rights. I'll also probably have some answers for next week from my college buddy who is a state park ranger. And he's laughing today because I was talking to him tonight about this, and he said, yeah, he was walking in the park today doing his rounds, and something threw a branch at him. Like, huh, that sounds like Bigfoot was saying hi. That's just, yeah, it's a Bigfoot thing. He's like, oh, wow. Because, I mean, he's probably about 300 miles roughly south of me. He's in a state park down south of Tacoma. So, closer, part of the Rainier. Part of the Mount Rainier Range.
He's in prime territory for it then.
Oh, yeah. And Mount Rainier alone is a hot spot for alien, for UFO, for Bigfoot. I'm pretty sure there's some Paulides cases in Rainier as well. Again, I'll have to look at the cluster map that you sent.
Yeah, you can just take one look at that cluster map and see there's going to be a massive amount of overlay. You're going to have to choose a different color for each layer to be able to distinguish the different ones.
Well, I'll probably do red for UFO. I'll probably do blue for Bigfoot. I'll make sure they're just very distinguishable differences, because we're only doing missing people, UFO, Bigfoot, or cryptid in general. Yeah. And then I'll do ley lines in maybe white or something. But it's hard, because I mean you can Google search ley lines of the Earth, and you have all these different maps that come up. But you don't know if they're accurate or not. You really don't, because ley lines are always shifting. How can you tell me that might be been the ley lines of the Earth 10 years ago, or even a year ago? It's different now.